Jazz is difficult to define. The thing is, jazz can encompass a wide range of moods and styles. To be fair, that probably explains the secret of its success over many years. But nowadays I notice a trend that more and more people, especially young ones, turn to jazz for more calm, relaxing tunes to find some peace and soothe daily tension and anxiety. Despite what genre and audiophile gatekeepers might bark and yell about it, this is perfectly fine and renews interest for this kind of music. It even opens the door to discover more about the band members and their repertoire. That's why today I'm here to recommend 5 jazz albums, very different from each other but assuring the same peaceful and serene outcome. Some of these albums are very different from what other people would usually recommend, so hope you enjoy them. We start with Bill Evans' You Must Believe in Spring. This is my favorite album by pianist Bill Evans. Heck, this is my favorite album of all time. It is one of the most nostalgic and heart-wrenching albums ever produced. It was recorded in 1977 and released in 1981, just months after Evans' death. The album marks the artist's final studio recording with bassist Eddie Gomez and drummer Elliot Sigmund. Evans dedicated it to his wife Elaine Schultz and his brother Harry, both of whom had taken their own lives. At the time that they recorded the album, in August 1977, this lineup of the Bill Evans Trio had reached their peak, after 3 years performing together. Music historian, Mark Myers, said the album had a gentle, melancholy feel and a music box tenderness. We follow with Antonio Carlos Jobim's album called Wave. Released in 1967, Wave was the perfect mixture of bossa nova and jazz. The Brazilian musician blended samba and jazzy rhythms to create a cool and laid-back atmosphere. In a 2014 review, Journal of All Music praised the album for its absolutely first-rate tunes, and said, "One only wishes that this album were longer, 31 minutes is not enough." Full of high-caliber musicians in its roster, like celebrated bassist Ron Carter, this album is a must. As Marlo Stevens said in its review at Jazz Journal, for fans of bossa nova, this is an essential album, and although the format and style is now well known, imitated many times over, at the time it was a very modern and sophisticated album. The third album I would like to recommend is Pat Metheny and Charlie Hayden's Beyond the Missouri Sky. This album has followed me over the years and it still manages to bring me to tears. An emotional collaboration that finds bassist Charlie Hayden and guitarist Pat Metheny creating music that transcends any genre label as they combine jazz and Americana styles. They both share Missouri lineage, an American rural state for those who don't know, that goes as the core for the album, resulting in an intimate recording reminiscent of eternal sunsets over green pastures. The tunes are emotional and tender and they play both well-known songs like Morricone's Cinema Paradiso, and their own original creations of the artists. An emotional album that will change you. I interrupt very briefly to ask you very kindly that, if you are enjoying this content, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps a lot to keep the channel going. On our fourth album we go back to basics, John Coltrane's Ballads. This album shows the sweetest and tender side of Coltrane. Critic Gene Lee stated that the quartet, including the amazing McCoy Tyner, had never played the tunes before. I quote, "They arrived with music store sheet music of the songs, and just before the recordings, they would discuss each tune, write out copies of the changes they'd use, semi-rehearse for a half hour and then do it. Each piece was recorded in one take, except for one." In 2008, the album was a recipient of the Grammy Hall of Fame Award. The album, a big contrast of the avant-garde content that Coltrane started to produce around those years, shows how much of a complete artist he was, capable of tapping all the emotional spectrum with extraordinary mastery. It's Coltrane for the love of God, there's nothing else to say. A gorgeous, intimate album showing his other side playing unforgettable ballads. Finally, we dive into another of the geniuses showing their most tender side, Keith Jarrett's The Melody at Night with You. The pianist, for those who don't know, has played with major legends like Art Blakey and Miles Davis. In my opinion, this is Jarrett's most intimate album, which consists of solo piano renderings of jazz ballads and traditional popular songs. In a similar fashion of Coltrane's ballads, Jarrett puts aside the usual virtuoso display, diving tenderly into these emotional tunes. Some of the songs he plays include, I Loves You Porgy, I Got It Bat and That Ain't Good, Don't Ever Leave Me, Someone to Watch Over Me and My Wild Irish Rose. Believe me, it is so intimate, you feel he just invited you to his house and he's playing for you on his piano as you relax on the sofa. Usually Jarrett tends to be a rather difficult artist to approach if you are just dabbling into jazz or starting to hear his repertoire, so you can definitely start here. Thanks again for taking the time to see the video. I hope you really liked it. Please consider liking and subscribing. It helps a lot. See you soon.